All right, good morning, everybody. So today is what, March 9th, March the 9th, Tuesday, March 9th. And let me go ahead and share our screen. Let's go to our class real quick. All right, hope that you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for, excuse me. Thank you so much for going to week 1. So we're in week 2 and everybody has completed, I believe everybody did, completed the introduction that just simply says that you are here and you're active in the class. So I want to say thank you for that. And I know it might seem trivial, just something really small, but it is really, really big. And we want to make sure that we have accurate records of, who's really in the class and who's not. Okay, so anyway, let's come right here. We're in week 2, so we're in the week of March 8th. Can you believe it? March is moving on out. Let's go through a couple of things so that we're all on the same page. So you should be checking in at least about 3 or 4 times a week, making sure you're checking out any announcements that we have in the announcement section and seeing what's due. So we have we have a discussion board this week. You'll find a PowerPoint and video right here to help you with your reading. We're going to go over our PowerPoint today. And let me close this. And I had a little handout, and we may be able to talk about this a little bit later today. This is the Didache, and the Didache was like a teaching of the early church. Let's talk about the discussion real quick. All right, so in your discussion, this week's discussion is going to talk about a man named or leader named Nero. Nero's real important to the early church, and you're going to research a little bit about Emperor Nero after you do this week's reading. And here's a video that I have for you that you can learn a little bit more in depth about him. So this is a YouTube video. You could check that out. And I want you to, in your discussion, explain what is his relationship with the early Christian church. What did he do that was very significant to the early church? And so he is a very iconic figure in, let me go back, in our reading this week. So you're going to read about Nero, Nero. Okay, so remember once again that your discussion is due by Sunday night. Please, please, please make sure that when you post, if you have anything that is not yours, any ideas, any words, any statistics, or anything that are not yours, you must cite. Make sure that you use MLA citation. And I believe, hold on, y'all, let me make sure that I did this. And if I didn't, yeah. Okay, so right here, I gave you some assistance for writing in MLA format, in-text citations, okay? And also, let's go over our discussion forum rules, because last week we just were chatting. We didn't have a formal discussion. All right, so let's talk about our discussion rules. So you're going to read the discussion question, of course, and read the chapters to help you. All right, you can do any additional information, and like this week you have a video you can watch. Your post should be, your first post should be at least 200 words, okay? It's not too long when you start, using your material. Now, in addition to making your post, make sure that you reply to at least 2 other classmates, and we have roughly, this class is not big at all. I wish it was bigger, but we have about 7 students in the class. So that should be easy to do. All right, so make sure you don't plagiarize, check over your work before you post it. And I know that everybody is very polite. So once again, when we make our posts, even if you disagree with somebody, that's fine to disagree. It's no problem with that. But we just always want to be respectful, okay? Always be respectful in your posts. And I know you will. All right. Okay, everybody, we are going to jump into, let me download this real quick, and let's jump into our lesson, okay? Actually, let me download. If you give me a second, I'm going to pull up my book too. All right. Carl or Nicholas, let me know if you can see our PowerPoint on the screen. Uh-oh. Did I lose y'all?
No, I'm here. I can't see. It hasn't loaded up yet.
It hasn't loaded. Oh, okay, that's what I was fearing. Gotcha. Here we go. Let's try it again. What about now?
Still can't see it.
Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, I see it. I see the PowerPoint.
Okay.
I see it now.
All right. It can be kind of slow. I've noticed that. All right. Okay, everybody. So we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2. We're going to kind of combine these. Now, it's cool if you have your book along with you, and you might have some questions about the reading as well as those people who are going to be watching this later on tonight. So we're in I'm going to start with chapter 1. So chapter 1, I got my book with me here. Chapter 1 starts from, and I love your book because it gives the time frame. So look at that. If anybody sees the time frame in chapter 1, it says 1 through 100. So that simply means we're looking at a very, 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 very long time ago. Make sure my phone is turned down. We're looking at kind of like the 1st century to about 100 years after the 1st century. Can you imagine that? That's a long time. And look, we're in 2021. All right, so we are starting with, I'm kind of starting on page 10, 11 of your textbook. So Christian history or church history, it all starts with Jesus Christ. So it all starts with him. And Jesus is known, and if you have me for the theology class too, we'll talk a little bit more about this in more depth. But as we start from the beginning in chapter 1 and 2, it starts with Jesus's ministry on earth and trying to figure out who Jesus is, right? So the humans or the disciples are trying to figure out, like, who are you and why were you sent to us, and what's going on? And so they come to know him as a savior, someone who's bringing peace, or they come to know him as God in human form. So in order to study church history or anything, we have to study first Jesus, because it all starts with Jesus. And so we have to figure out, so what was his point? What was his main message? What was his reason, right, for being on earth? And so one of the main messages that Jesus had was, when he interacted with people, he wanted them to know that this whole notion of like the kingdom of God, or like God's presence with people, was here on earth, and that they didn't have to look to other places to gain peace. A lot of common themes of Christianity even today are, like being restored internally, like your internal self. Martyrdom, we'll talk about martyrdom a little bit later in the chapter and other chapters to come, because a lot of the early disciples were martyrs. Anybody know what a martyr is? Let me stop real quick. Anybody heard of that word, a martyr?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Who's, yeah?
Brian?
I can't see y'all no more. Okay, Brian, go ahead, jump in there. What do you think a martyr means?
Martyr is pretty much somebody that's willing to die for the gospel, right?
There you go. Very good. Bingo. So martyrdom, you had a lot of martyrs, and we're going to learn about some in this book, where the early disciples were like, wait a minute, we're going to stand up for this. We're going to stand up for what we believe in. And they literally did give their lives. Some other common themes of Christianity are relationship, making sure that they have relationship with, or excuse me, or the relationship that Christians had with their countries. And so when I say country, like where they lived. And as we start to study the early church, it's not just studying the church, but it's also studying how they interacted with local government. All right. So if you have your textbook, I'm going to page 12, and we're going to figure out a couple of things. There's a really cool map on like timeline, should I say, on page 12 and 13. But if you have your textbook, I want you to go there and I want you to look at that. What do you think the term Christians means? What do you think that term means? And if you have your book, go to the top of page 13.
Christ ones.
Good. Okay, good. Good. I heard Christ. Say the other part.
Oh, Christ ones.
Christ ones. Okay. So yeah, so they belong to Christ, or they were followers of Christ or something. So did you know that Christians weren't always called that? Like way back in the beginning, like look at your chapter, we're talking about year 1 to 100, right? They weren't called Christians at that time, but they were called followers of the way. Isn't that interesting? So then you see this change in name later on, hundreds of years later. But did you know that Christianity actually grew out of Judaism?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right. And the Jewish culture, so at the time when Jesus comes on the scene, should we say, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish culture was predominantly the culture that they followed. But Jesus said, okay, well, that's cool. Nothing was wrong with it. But the difference was that the followers of Christ believed that Christ was the Messiah. And Jewish followers, or those people who followed Judaism, did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Okay, so Jewish people have some disagreement with oh, somebody mute your microphone. Some Jewish people may have disagreement with exactly who Jesus is and being Messiah or being Savior. But there are some Jewish groups, Messianic Jewish followers, who do believe that Jesus is a Messiah or is a Savior of people. So this is where you have the beginning of the Christian church, where you start to see that disagreement between the Jewish people, and they're like, I don't know about that, and then the followers of the way are like, no, we believe that Jesus is the Messiah. So there you have, from those two sects, not sects, but those two disagreements, I want to say, right? Then you have the birth of what we're studying now, the Christian church. So if you have your book with you, I want you to just kind of run your finger through this timeline. And I couldn't get it on the screen, but I just want you to check out the timelines on page 12 and 13. It is just like really cool to see. We're actually going from like year, what we think. And when you see these dates, they're roughly around that time, year like 40 to 44. And then, you know, look at where it goes to like year 96 to year 100. So I just want you to kind of just take your finger and just look and see how things grew. If you look there on page 13, giving you some little help, they talk a little bit about Nero. We're going to talk a little bit more about him. He was a trip. All right, so I want you to review that timeline and kind of drag your finger along there and see how things progressed over about 100 years. And so you have this new Christian church. It's really important for us to get our geography straight too. So we see, always remember like your geography. Remember when you were in school, you had to remember, oh, what's this today? What is it? What is this? What is this country, should I say? Anybody know where this would be, modern day?
On my screen, the slide hasn't moved yet. It's still at the beginning.
Oh no, what's happening? Do you see this the slide that says timelines?
No, I still see the screen that say chapter 1 and 2.
Oh
I see it now.
man.
I see it now.
Mine does too.
Okay, you guys got to tell me if you don't see it. Okay.
All right,
So,
now it's
oh, I do apologize. It's like something happens when you put the PowerPoints on there. Okay, so let me know what you see now. Do you see my slide that says timelines?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me try this out real quick. All right, let me know if you see me moving on the screen. Do you see the beginning?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you see Let's Learn, Get Your Textbook?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, super. All right, this is a trip. All right, so back to my question. Can you see our map? What's that look like?
Kaboom.
Italy.
Yeah,
Italy.
yeah, the boot. What country looks like the boot?
Italy.
Italy, very good. So it's important that when we're reading this stuff, we're like, where in the world are all these people in history? You know, we're in the United States, and sometimes we just can't really grasp all these hundreds of places. So we're talking about Italy, and if you kind of go up to the top north of here, a lot of these countries are named places that are have been renamed now. But Rome, I want you to put in your mind Rome. Rome is where it all began. This new Christian church starts to spring out of the location of Rome. So I want you to think about, if you get a chance and access your map, access a map. You can just do it on your phone, right? And figure out, where is Rome located? Where are you located? Think about, and I want you to think about that. We're all the way in the United States, right? And this history has traveled and has had an influence all around the globe. So the Roman government at that time was not real kind to Christians. They didn't really like them because, let me just go back. Why do you think the Roman government didn't like the Christians?
They were different.
They were different. They sure were. And it seems like throughout history, right? If anything that is different in culture, sometimes it is, not sometimes, many times it is not embraced. It's shunned, it's ostracized, it's beaten, those type of things. Okay, so the Roman government was not very kind to Christians. They, in year 70, Romans sought to occupy the country of Jerusalem, and they wanted to destroy their temple. So I want you to think about it. If this is your place, it's not like 2021, right? Where we have internet and all that stuff, and we have Zoom. So if our temple is destroyed, we could still hook up, right? We could hook up at somebody's house. But they had a central place where they were worshiping, and they burnt it down. How do you think they felt?
Is an umbrella term used to refer.
Oh, wait, okay, somebody was saying something, I can't really hear you. Okay. But they didn't feel very good about that, of course. If somebody destroys your community, your place of worship, your school, or something that you hold really dear, you're gonna be quite upset. And so, of course, many Jews and many Christians were like, look, if you don't want us here, we're gonna go somewhere else where we can worship and we can live the way we want to live. All right. Let me know if you see me switch over to chapter 2.
I can see it.
Yes.
All right. I'm just getting scared. All right. And so we're in chapter 2 now, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about how they start to grow. So if you look at chapter 2, the years that we're going to look at are from like year 100 to 200. And so now remember, if you go back to chapter 1, it all starts in the central location of Rome. So as they start to grow, they start to grow in people, so they start to grow in number. And if these Christians are starting to grow in number, what do you think is happening? What do you think the government's thinking about them?
I guess feel threatened.
They feel threatened. Exactly. Because, okay, wait a minute, y'all are outnumbering us. And then look at the second sentence I have right here. Now the Christians are starting to pose a problem because they're refusing to worship the Roman gods. They're refusing to worship like their statues. They're refusing to do the stuff that the government wants them to do, right? So they're just like becoming a problem to them. So Ignatius was bishop at the time of Antioch. And as bishop, he provided some authority for the church people. And this helped to give rules, and he wanted to set some standards. He wanted to set some beliefs for them. So I highlight that name in your reading as you read this week, Ignatius. He became a bishop of Antioch. Okay. All right, so now we're beginning to grow a little bit. We're beginning to grow. So think about it. Here's a word that I want you to jot down. It's a weird looking word, isn't it? Don't pronounce the G. Gnosticism. Okay, what is Gnosticism? Let's just pause right there. What is Gnosticism? If you have your book, or even if you're on your phone, I want somebody to Google, or I hope you have your books with you, or go to page 17. What do you think Gnosticism is? I'm on page there, you get a definition on 17.
I guess people who claim to have secret knowledge from the disciples.
Okay, so very good. So if you guys are in your book, go to page 18 and 19, but page 18 gives us a definition, and you can also Google it if you have your phone with you. So listen, this is going to be really interesting as we start our study in church history. So remember now, you got these Christians that are getting on the nerves of the Roman government because they're believing different stuff. And so as history starts to move through, you're going to get a lot of people that believe different things. So I'm just going to kind of warn you as you start to read in this book. It helps me myself to write these terms down, because you're going to get a lot of people, a lot of groups of people that are going to start believing different things because they're trying to figure out what they believe. They don't really know yet. All right, on page 18, it says, let me go back, and I do want to read you this real quick. All right, I want to go back to 17. Flourishing in Alexandria and Egypt since the first decade of the 2nd century, the various Gnostic groups claimed secret knowledge, and secret knowledge was called, and I believe this is Greek word, gnosis, Gnosis. And they said that this secret knowledge that they got was handed down from the apostles, or these disciples. And let me back up a little bit. The apostles that they say that they got this information from, these were people that hung with Jesus when he was on earth. So they're saying, these people were saying, hey, we got some secret knowledge from these disciple people that you don't have. I just want you to think about that for a minute. Apart from their claim to know more than what was freely available in the Gospels and the epistles, a further challenge came by the way of Gnostic distinction between the material and the spiritual worlds. Gnosticism demonizes matter by claiming that the world was created by an evil god, the demiurge, I hope I'm saying that right, and that the secret message of Christ is the only way to escape to the pure and spiritual realm. I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong word. Now, let me just pause right there. They were having a lot of issues with these Gnostics. And Gnosticism becomes a problem. Okay, so Gnosticism becomes a problem because look, first of all, they're saying, this group of people are saying, hey, we got secret knowledge and we got it. And, and you might have a Bible, but we got secret stuff that's not even in the Bible. Now, let me just stop. Even if you don't follow Christianity, what are you thinking about that? What are you thinking about these Gnostic people?
I guess it seems a bit suspicious, I guess.
Right. You would be scratching your head like, okay. Now, if they have some secret knowledge, oh my goodness, what do I have? Was my stuff wrong?
Yeah.
And that's what the people of that time were wrestling with. Now, remember, y'all, they didn't have books like we do, and YouTube, and all these different people to explain things in schools. They really were trying to figure stuff out themselves. So after the death of Christ, the new followers are really trying to figure out what is true. What do we believe? How can we tell people the truth? Okay, and some people believe something different from the next person. That's how we got. And you get the Gnostic group, and even as we start to go on down the line, years later, you're gonna get other groups that start to believe different things too. So anyway, so these Gnostics, they claim to have special knowledge that other people didn't have. Okay, let's talk about the martyrs. And I've got something I want to show you real quick. Okay, martyrs. And we said earlier, I think it was Brian, said a martyr is someone who gives their life. And we're going to learn about a lot of martyrs. I'm going to see if I can post a picture. I mean, not a picture, a story of Polycarp. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. So the early church was really restless. And when we say restless, y'all, they just kept it moving. They kept expanding. They really tried to keep sharing their teaching, but they're trying to figure out what it is and share with other people. So a lot of the church leaders, a lot of the followers come under a lot of persecution from the government. I mean, you know what the word persecution means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about it. Persecution. What do you think that could entail?
Beat, tortured, hung, lynched.
Laughed at, mocked,
There you go.
So it's like execution.
called not normal and stuff.
All of the above. All of the
In the
above.
class.
Say that one more time.
My bad. I'm sorry, that was fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all of the above. All of your answers are correct. They went through it. And I just want you to think about the early church followers. Remember, y'all, they didn't have no official book. They didn't have like official handouts. They just had a belief and a faith that this is what it is. And through their teachings, they were like, okay, we're buying into this. This is truth, right? And they held to that truth. They held to that truth, even though it was contrary to the government where they lived, right? So the Roman government was like, look, y'all growing, y'all doing stuff different, and you're getting on our nerves. So if you just look at basically, right? If you just look at the picture, how this person is being hurt and maybe persecuted because they want to pray, because they want to go to their temple. And so their temples were destroyed. Yes. They were literally physically hurt. Yes, they were laughed at. They were mocked. All for, not because they were doing stuff to people, all for just what they believed. Now, I want you to look at the second point here. A martyr, as we said earlier, is someone who stands up for their belief, and they're like, even if I gotta die, I'm gonna die for it. That's what a martyr is. And I think that's really pretty remarkable. We're going to learn about some martyrs. There's a martyr in New Testament, Stephen, Justice, Ignatius. Let's see if I can find Polycarp for you. Women as well as men were martyrs. Okay. So it wasn't just men. Okay. Families and women stood up for what they believed, and they were killed as well. So I just want to pause right there. Let that sink in for a minute. Martyrdom. Let's bring it to 2021. Let's bring it to modern times. Ooh. Even though it's not like that anymore, right? We're so thankful that we live in America and we can worship how we want to worship, and we could believe what we want to believe. If you don't like this, you can believe something else. Nobody cares. But right? But there are other countries where you can't really do that. They like maybe like a South Korea. No, North Korea. Sorry about that. North Korea. There are still Christians being persecuted today. And you know what? I'm going to send y'all this website. There's a website that tells where Christians are still being persecuted around the globe. There's certain parts of Asia that Christians cannot worship and read Bibles and things like that freely because they're just simply scared for their lives. Can you imagine that? All right, let's talk about Africa. And I just want to chat with you for a minute about our African influence. Let me ask this question before we talk about the gentleman that's on the screen. Have you thought about the Bible, or have you ever thought about African people influencing church history before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Good. I heard some yeses.
Yeah, I remember you telling us in class, or whatever, that you showing us this one country in the book or whatever, and you showing us how, like, there were African Americans in the Bible.
Right, African, right? Not quite American, but
Okay.
but you're right. There you go. But we made it over here to America, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Very good. So yes, everybody. And if you don't get anything, I can't see who was talking. Was that Brian? Or was that?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay. If you don't get anything from the course, that's one of the things I always want us, especially as African American people, to understand that even if you don't ascribe to Christianity, there are so many things, right? People say, oh, it's European or whatever. But look, Christianity, say that again.
Yeah, they be saying stuff like it's the white man religion and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, you heard stuff like that. So what I want us to understand is it was very much African first. So you have to look at the place where it was born. So y'all remember, if you go all the way back, review back on these slides, review back in your reading. We didn't say anything about Europe just yet. We're going to get to Europe, but it has not moved yet to Europe. We're still in, we're going to talk, well, actually, let's go right here. We're talking in that area like Egypt. So we're talking about North Africa. So let's talk about right here. We're talking about areas like Alexandria, where you have, oh my goodness, y'all, you have African influences of authors who are writing their own books. Alexandria, y'all, this is not in Europe. This is in Africa, in Egypt. And Alexandria was a place that was known for its libraries. Can you imagine that? And they were writing about theology, and they were writing about God, and they were writing about how we're supposed to do things. So, right, when you hear people say, oh, well, it's European or it's white, wait, back them up and say, wait, it was very much African before it was European. We had it first, right? So excuse me, let me go back to Alexandria. Alexandria had Christian and Jewish culture that was influencing it. And then later on, as you start to get down into maybe a few hundred years later, you start to also see Muslim influence as well. All right. I want you to also put a little note here that Christianity had a presence in Africa. Like I said before, missionaries from the West stepped foot on the continent. So Christianity was there before European people came to tell us how they were doing it, you know. So the people that were there on the African continent were practicing their way, right? And then you get these missionaries come and say, hey, y'all doing it like this, we do it like that, you know. So that's how history goes. Tertullian, this is the picture right here. I want you to see this picture. It might look kind of like, who is that? I love his, outfit. So Tertullian was an African church father. And here's another thing. This is a side note. This is a side note. This is not in your book because you're not going to see it really represented well in your book. But a lot of the paintings, y'all, that you will see of early church people are incorrect. And why do you think I say they're incorrect? Paintings.
Well, the artists that painted them, most of them were white people.
All right.
It was, painted in their image.
There you go. Bingo. Everybody got that? So as Lester said, yes. And I'm not all now, but a lot of the paintings that we see, I'm kind of flipping through the book now, of early church people, y'all remember, these are not, remember where the church is starting. We're not starting in Germany. We're not talking about Scandinavia. We're starting in Egypt, Rome, and people don't look like that. But as as Lester said, so I'm a Black woman, right? And if you ask me to draw a picture of something, I'm gonna draw it the way I see people. So if I see people all around me and all of them were brown and all of them had hair a certain way, then I'm gonna draw it like that, right? And if somebody else is a different culture and they say, hey, can you draw a picture of Jesus or whatever? Can you draw a picture of so-and-so? Okay, sure. They're going to draw a picture. Hey, I think he was tall, he was buff or whatever. They're going to draw a picture and they're going to use what they see a nice man to look like in their culture. So I just say all that to say, y'all, when you look at these pictures, it's not that they're 100% wrong. It came out of somebody's imagination and how they saw it themselves, but it's not 100% for all of these people. And remember, y'all, these are paintings. It wasn't like we had iPhones and smartphones where we could say, can you stay right there so I can take a picture of you? Right, we can get an exact picture of people right now. And years ago, but y'all, we're talking about the beginning of the first century. You probably didn't even have paper, so just think about somebody trying to say, I saw him about 10 years ago, so I'm trying to figure out what he looked like. Okay. All right, so Tertullian. Anyway, Tertullian over here in this picture, and I picked this picture for a reason because he appears brown. And so if you look up Tertullian, he's an African church father. He is very big on creeds. You're going to see that Tertullian was really instrumental in laying down what Christians should think and should believe. Excuse me. So he's an African individual, North African theologian. So I like this picture, and you might also, if you Google it right now on your phone, just put in Tertullian, Tertullian, or even if you're on your computer, right, just open up another browser. You're probably gonna see a whole bunch of pictures. Let me see if I can do it. You're gonna see a whole bunch of pictures that may look very different. Let me see if I can get out of this. Okay, I'm gonna hit stop share. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a search real quick. It may not let me do it. Hold on, somebody go on mute. Okay, I think I can pull it up. Let me see if I can pull this up. I want to show you something. Okay, somebody let me know if you can see these pictures. If you can see my page says Tertullian. Did it come up yet? Oh,
No.
On your screen.
no. Let me try. There's something going on with this Microsoft Teams that I don't like. Now. Oh, right. Somebody said there it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
See it.
Look at these pictures. It's just an example. So look at the top row. He looks very European, doesn't he?
Yes.
I like this one. It looked a little brown. Look a little light brown. Here's some other pictures. Look like, wait a minute, did he have, no beard right there. He looked like he had a beard. Looks a little different right here. Looks European right there. So I just say all that to say, these paintings, these sculptures that you're gonna see of early church people may not always be 100% correct, okay? Yeah, stay right there. Any questions, comments so far? I want to transition to something.
No, not at the moment.
All right, stay right there. Let's see if I can bring this up. This is a little short video I want to show you. All right, so I'm going to switch over to this video. I need you all once again, help me out and let me know when you see it come up.
It shows. I can see it.
Oh, super. All right, and if you're taking notes, remember we talked about martyrs, M-A-R-T-Y-R, and a martyr gave up his or her life for their belief in their faith. All right, we're going to talk about this real quick. It's about 3 minutes. This is going to end us out. Polycarp, P-O-L-Y, Carp, C-A-R-P. Polycarp was a true martyr and gave up his life. Let's play this real quick. Sorry, hold on. I need to share the audio. I apologize. So you can hear. Let's do this again.
Both Jews and Christians were monotheistic faiths, and the Romans instituted emperor worship. And anybody caught not bowing a knee to an image or an idol of the Caesar was subject to pretty harsh treatment, even death. In fact, in 156 AD, One of Christianity's most famous early church fathers, Polycarp, was burned at the stake and martyred right here in Smyrna. Polycarp was a man born in 70 AD who came to believe in Christ at an early age. He had the opportunity later to study directly under the Apostle John and others who had had direct association with Jesus Christ during his earthly ministry. Pretty cool that he was only 1 degree separated from Jesus himself. Polycarp was eventually appointed by John as the bishop of the church in Smyrna, where he faithfully ministered for many years. It was under the rule of Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius that the persecution of Christians became more intense. In the year 156 AD, Polycarp was arrested by Roman soldiers and was taken before the local proconsul here in Smyrna and urged to utter the phrase, "Caesar is Lord," and offer a small pinch of incense to the statue of the emperor. It was a simple formality that would have spared Polycarp from torture and death. His refusal to do so infuriated the bloodthirsty mob. Then, according to a Smyrnian letter recording the event, as Polycarp was being dragged to his place of execution, a voice was heard from heaven by all the believers that were present. The voice said this:
"Be strong, Polycarp, and play the man."
Then, standing in the arena, Polycarp was urged one last time to renounce Christ. His response, well attested in historical accounts, was this:
86 years I have served Christ, and he never did me any wrong. How can I blaspheme my King who saved me?
Polycarp was soon led to the stake to be burned alive. Claiming that God would give him the strength to remain on the stake without moving, he asked to be tied instead of nailed to the stake. Then, after Polycarp uttered his last prayer, the fire was lit. To the astonishment of the crowd, the flames merely swirled around him as if a wall of wind was protecting him, and his body was unscathed. The executioner was then ordered to plunge a sword through the flames into Polycarp. After doing so, as the letter records, Polycarp's blood gushed forth and extinguished the fire. One of early Christianity's most important church fathers was dead. His life and death was a living testimony of faith that would endure for 2,000 years. But the death of Polycarp backfired, for his conviction and witness went on to inspire and embolden thousands of saints after him. He is a tangible illustration of the fact that during the times of the greatest persecution, the Christian church grows the most.
All right, let's stop. Okay, so any thoughts? I wanted to show you that as we talked about martyrdom, as we end right here, as you see what's happening with the early Christian church. What do you think?
Oh, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was, actually, I didn't know he studied under one of the disciples.
I think it kind of sounds, when they was talking about them worshiping the statue of Caesar or something like that. About maybe a few days ago, I think I was reading. It was either Daniel or Ezekiel or whatever. It was something similar.
Daniel.
Or something. I forgot exactly who it was. It was chapter, but it was about 3 people that wouldn't bow down to this God that everybody else in that land that nation was about trying to serve or whatever. And the king tried to throw them into the fire.
Very good. Good correlation, Brian. Very good. That's in the book of Daniel. Good correlation. So he says, look, even let me go back. Polycarp came after what you're referring to, right? So it was still going on.
Yeah.
People standing up for their faith. Very good. And so the Roman government was like, look, we're going to put a stop to y'all because you're doing stuff, you're doing too much, right? That's how people say you're doing the most. And they figured that I want y'all to see this correlation. What time is it? 11:52. Okay. I want you to see this correlation as well as Black people. So the government says, I'm going to stop you from doing what you're doing. So I'm going to put fear in y'all, and they're going to make examples of people. Sound familiar? And kill people who are standing up for their faith. And so Polycarp was one of many martyrs who were killed. And so he was one of the early martyrs. And if you caught in the video, so the government was like, yeah, so if we kill this old man, right? And if we kill him, the other people will be scared. But did that work?
Mm.
Mm. Was Polycarp the only martyr?
No.
No. They kept doing it. They're like, well, you know what? And so the Roman government is like, yeah, we're going to scare them now. We're going to kill him. And then that'll scare the other people. And I'm sure it did scare some people, because I probably would have been scared. But for the ones that were really brave and said, you know, I'm going to stand up for what I believe, and I believe that God's going to save me, they were like, you can kill me too. It's good.
Okay.
So it backfired on the Roman government. So as African Americans, I want you to also look at the correlation of history. As you start to move with way, if we had a fast forward button, if you look at how our enslaved ancestors were treated being brought to another country, right? And there was rule and government and stuff like that they're trying to figure out. All right, now, if you act up, if you run away, what were they gonna do?
Prosecute you.
Yeah, prosecute you. They were gonna probably knock something off of you, probably, you know, knock a hand off or a foot. And later on, y'all look at this. Later on, okay, we're freed, quote unquote. After the Civil War, if our men or women did something wrong, all right, we're gonna make a believer out of you. We're gonna hang you. We're gonna lynch you. Y'all see how this keep going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. How we doing, Nicholas, Lester, Carl, Brian?
Oh, we're doing good.
Doing all right. Doing all right. Doing all right.
Okay.
Doing all right.
All right. Any questions before we leave out today?
Quiz. What do you personally make any type of big deal about, you know, Jesus' skin color in the Bible? Because, you know, like me personally, like my coworkers at work, they stay baffling about whether Jesus was black or not and all that. And I'm just like, bro, like he's Jewish, ain't it? Like it really don't even matter for real.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
And then I guess too, if we,
you say what?
Oh, my bad. I was about to say, like, I guess too, if we being honest, bro, like they didn't even really describe, the Bible doesn't even really describe his appearance until after he died and rose, if we being honest.
Well, there are I'm gonna get the exact book because I do not want to lie. It's not in the New Testament, it's in the Old Testament. I believe it is referring to Jesus, talking about his hair was thick and woolly. Now, you know, our hair is a little thick. And here's the thing too. Remember what we said in the beginning of our lesson, geography is key. Geography is key. So, you know, what you're wrapped in doesn't really matter. I totally get you. So, but always think about geography. Always think about where we are when we're reading history. And so this is not European. We're not talking about a European location just yet. We're not talking about that area. So if you're talking even about North Africa, folks got a little hue to their skin, right? They have a little hue, they got a little hue to their skin, they got a little color to their face, they have a little curl to their hair. It probably was not blonde, and it probably was not straight, and it probably didn't have blue eyes.
Yeah, I be seeing that a lot too. People be trying to post the Europeans, bro. Like, bro, nice. I guess me personally, bro, I don't see them in no skin color for.
Right.
If anything, I
Anything
feel like
you said don't matter.
I would say, if anything.
Right. But going back to what Lester said, when you see a picture depicted of biblical people, probably it is more than likely in that artist's mind. That's how they see the person. But I always, to answer your question, always go back to the geography. When you're reading and you're looking at your church history, you say, hold up, where are these people? Are these people in Russia? Are these people in Africa? How do people look in Russia? How do people look in Africa? How do people look in China? You know, so hey. Good stuff, everybody. All right, so if no other questions, make sure that you head over to week 2 today, or well, this week, should I say, and complete the discussion question for this week. And remember, everything's due by Sunday night, 11:59.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
All right, it's a pleasure being with you. I'm going to hit stop record, and I'll post this for our students who are watching. And I will see you next week. Y'all be blessed. Please stay safe.
You too.
Okay.
You
All right.
too.